TUC warns 15% fuel import duty will deepen hardship for Nigerians. Peace accord collapses as bandits kill 2 leaders in Bakori. PDP releases CCTV footage alleging Anyanwu-led thugs to Secretariat break-in. And away from Nigeria, Trump says he'll skip G20 summit, urges removal of South Africa. Hello, good evening and welcome to News Update on Trust TV. I am Fatima Amin Musa. Thank you so much for joining us. Now, the Trade Union Congress, TUC, has cautioned that the federal government's proposed 15% import duty on premium motor spirits will worsen the economic hardship faced by Nigerians. TUC President Festus Osifo, who stated this on Wednesday, said the union is reviewing the policy and consulting stakeholders to assess its full impact. Osifo argued that while the government claims the duty aims to protect local refining capacity, it could immediately trigger a sharp rise in petrol pump price, since Nigeria still imports about 70% of its fuel needs. He called for clarification on whether the new levy will apply only to foreign importers or also to operators within Nigeria's free trade zones, warning that a lack of clarity could create confusion and burden consumers. The TUC president emphasized that labor and industry groups must be properly consulted before implementation, noting that both the TUC and the Petroleum and Natural Gas Senior Staff Association of Nigeria, Pengasan, will soon issue an informed position on the matter. According to him, the union's priority remains protecting workers and citizens from additional economic pressures. Now, China has pledged continued support for Nigeria's fight against terrorism and efforts to safeguard national stability, reaffirming its opposition to foreign interference in country's internal affairs. The Chinese ambassador to Nigeria, Wu Donghai, made this known in a post on his official X handle on Thursday following a meeting with the National Security Advisor, Nuhu Ribadu. Donghai highlighted that since President Bola Tinubu's participation in the Beijing summit of the Forum on China-Africa Cooperation and his state visit to China last year, cooperation between both nations had yielded fruitful outcomes, contributing to Nigeria's socio-economic development. He stressed that China firmly rejects the use of religion or human rights as pretext for sanction or force, adding that Beijing remains committed to deepening security collaborations with Nigeria to combat terrorism and promote lasting peace. Now, the fragile peace in Katsina State suffered another blow when bandits stormed Dogwar Dorawa, a small farming community near Guga in Bakori local government area, killing 2 respected leaders and abducting several residents. The attack, which lasted for over an hour, has once again raised questions about the effectiveness of the peace accord between the state government and some armed groups operating across the region. According to the community sources, the assailant invaded the village around 10 p.m., slaughtering both brothers, Bashir and Alhaji Surajo, both regarded as pillars of leadership and moral guidance in the community. Residents say the attackers came on motorcycles, parked them in the bush, and walked into the village to avoid being noticed. The killings have renewed anger and despair among residents who now describe the state peace pact with bandits as a failed experiment. Residents lamented that hardly a day passes without an attack despite the so-called peace deal, saying they are tired of failed promises. As of the time of filing this report, neither the Katsina State government nor the Bakori Local Government Council had issued any official statement on the latest killings. Now, as the federal government intensifies efforts to strengthen primary healthcare delivery through the Basic Healthcare Provision Fund, questions are emerging about how effectively these funds are being utilized and what more needs to be done for the scheme to truly impact the lives of ordinary citizens. Trust TV's Abdulaziz Ibrahim spoke to residents about the initiative and now reports.
The Basic Healthcare Provision Fund, or BHCPF, was established to improve access to quality healthcare for Nigeria's poorest and most vulnerable citizens. In Kano, the funds are disbursed to health facilities through two main channels. 300,750 naira is released quarterly from the State Primary Healthcare Board to 484 facilities, including this one at Sharada. 570 naira per beneficiary is sent monthly through the Kano State Contributory Healthcare Management Agency. The aim is to ensure that pregnant women, the elderly defined in Kano as those above 60 years, children under 5, persons with disabilities, and other vulnerable groups receive essential healthcare services at no cost. Each ward has a ward development committee responsible for supervising implementation and ensuring accountability. Health workers here say the funds have enabled them to provide essential drugs, improve facilities, and hire ad hoc staff to meet growing patient needs.
Because we have a lot of patients in Sharada that we used to give them help, how to have a good treatment and the drugs also at the right time. And also we have, in terms of some of old man and child, I used to give them free drugs.
For some elderly residents, the impact has been life-changing.
I had been sick at home for some time before being brought to this hospital. I received all the necessary tests and treatment free of charge.
Hassan Gama works for a civil society organization monitoring the project.
We go to facilities and then we follow that money and see what are they using the money for. And good enough, a lot of our facilities have been using the money because, for example, there are some facilities that we go, there are challenges of, they have the challenges of not having electric supply, and they bought solar power for that facilities. And there are some facilities that they have problem of roofing. They use that money to repair their facilities. And then some of them, they employ temporary staff for them to be paying them.
Despite the billions allocated, many Nigerians still struggle to access quality health care. He believes sustained oversight, community participation, and private sector collaboration are essential to achieving wider health coverage.
Because the system said the federal government will be putting 1% from its consolidated revenue fund. But it said other development partners, other private institutions, private companies can come in. So you can see it now. Let the private companies and donor partners come in and support this program. We should not wait for development partners. We should support the system. For us now, let us be going out, conducting monitoring. You know, in Nigeria system, if you want it to work, you have to express action on monitoring. And I'm calling for the government also, for them to put more money on monitoring.
With effective monitoring, transparency, and stronger private sector support, the Basic Healthcare Provision Fund can move Nigeria closer to a system where income no longer determines who receives proper health care. Abdulaziz Ibrahim, Trust TV News, Kano.
Now, on a sad note, the Nigerian Navy Forward Operating Base Bonny has rescued 11 passengers from a sinking speedboat along the Bonny River in Rivers State. According to Lieutenant Commander Sirajo Al-Mustafa, Base Operation Officer, the rescue took place around 1 p.m. on Tuesday, November 4, 2025, near the Federal Ocean Terminal, Oni. Al-Mustafa said the boat, which had 21 passengers on board, began to sink after suffering an engine malfunction that allowed water into the vessel. However, the situation was worsened by overloading. Navy personnel conducting routine patrols in the area quickly intervened and safely evacuated 11 passengers. The rescued individuals were later debriefed at FOB Bonny and handed over to the Marine Police, represented by ASP Friday Ngeche, for reunification with their families. The officer added that the boat's engine was repaired around 3:58 p.m., after which the driver and the remaining 10 passengers continued their journey to Colby Jetty, Bonny Island. Al-Mustafa reaffirmed the Navy's commitment to ensuring safety along Nigeria's waterways, noting that the operation aligns with the strategic directives of the Chief of Naval Staff, Vice Admiral Idi Abbas, to promote security and lawful maritime activities. Now, there was tension in Jalingo, the Taraba state capital, on Thursday as individuals identified as ghost workers staged a protest at the T.Y. Danjuma House, demanding their reinstatement and payment of 4 months' outstanding salaries. The protesters, who insisted they were genuine employees, wrongly tagged as ghost workers despite completing the state government's verification exercise, appealed to Governor Agbo Kefas to intervene and resolve their grievances. Chanting solidarity songs and carrying placards with inscriptions such as "Pay us our salaries" and 4 months not before 4 days, the demonstrators lamented the economic hardship caused by their removal from the state's payroll. One of the protesters said, "We have worked tirelessly and deserve our pay. We are not ghost workers, we are humans with families to feed." Addressing the protesters, Governor Kefas assured them that workers with verified employment records will begin receiving their payment from Monday. He added that those with irregular employment details will have their cases reviewed to determine their eligibility for payment. Now, the Nigerian Senate has confirmed Dr. Kingsley Tochukwu Ude, a senior advocate of Nigeria's son from Enugu State, as a minister of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. His confirmation followed a successful screening at the Senate chamber, where he answered questions from lawmakers. To report.
Despite the fact that its economic gains are not impacting positively on majority of Nigerians, government continues to blow its own trumpet about its successes with the economy. The latest of such gains is the successful Eurobond issuance, which Minister of Finance says is a testament to the continued investor confidence in the country. Other successes, which it says draw down from the president's bold and sometimes unpopular economic reforms, are the growth of Nigeria's GDP by 4.23% in the second quarter of 2025, which is the highest in a decade.
13 sectors recorded growth above 7%, up from 9 in the previous quarter, showing broad-based resilience. The industrial sector nearly doubled its growth from 3.72% to 7.45%, reflecting rising productivity and investor confidence. Inflation eased to 18% in December, while, as we know, foreign exchange reserves topped 43 billion and our trade surplus topped 7.4 trillion. Clear examples of macroeconomic stability.
President Tinubu's comments acknowledging the economic gains are brief, and so is his veiled response to the diplomatic back and forth with US President Donald Trump. It is his first spoken response to allegations of genocide of Christians in the country and the threat of military intervention by the US.
The task ahead is immense. We are engaging the world diplomatically, and we assure all of you that we will, defeat terrorism in this country. The task ahead is immense, but it's our resolve to move forward with unity and purpose, guided by renewed hope agenda to build a prosperous inclusive, and resilient Nigeria. Thank you very much.
Before the meeting of the Council of Ministers commenced in full, Secretary to the Government of the Federation, George Akume, paid tribute to two members of the cabinet that had passed on. Senator Solomon Ewuga served as Minister of State for the Federal Capital Territory between 1999 and 2003, while General Muhammad Abdullahi was Chief of Staff to President Olusegun Obasanjo and briefly to President Umaru Musa Yar'Adua. From State House Abuja, Kehinde Amodu, Trust TV News.
Moving on. The crisis-ridden People's Democratic Party, PDP, has provided graphic details of how its suspended National Secretary, Samuel Anyanwu, allegedly led thugs to break into the party's National Secretariat in Abuja on Monday. Recall that the PDP's National Working Committee, led by the National Chairman, Ambassador Iliya Damagun, had last week suspended Anyanwu and others from the party over alleged anti-party activities. But Anyanwu, at a different gathering, also issued a counter-suspension order against Damagun and others, announcing the party's National Vice Chairman, North Central, Muhammad Abdurrahman, as the new acting National Chairman of the party. Consequently, on Monday, Anyanwu led Abdurrahman in company of protesters to take over the PDP National Secretariat purportedly as new leaders of the party. However, the Damagun-led PDP on Thursday said CCTV footage has exposed the suspended National Secretary Samuel Anyanwu and an alleged thug leader, Emmanuel Okoronko, as leading the break-in at Wadata Plaza National Secretariat of the party. The footage, independently verified by PDP loyalists and shared widely on social media under Wadata Invasion, captures the group smashing logs and breaking doors at the party's National Secretariat. Now, Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC) says 75% of re-election litigation the commission was joined in were due to lack of internal democracy and leadership tussle among political parties. INEC Chairman Josh Amopitan stated this in an interview with the newsmen in Awka on Wednesday when asked if he was concerned about the issue of lack of internal democracy among registered political parties in Nigeria. Amopitan said he was bothered by the menace because of the impact on the electoral process and Nigerian democracy. The INEC chairman said Nigerians continue to scrutinize the country's elections but ignore the political parties' recruitment process for their candidates and internal democracy. He said that INEC, saddled with the responsibility to monitor the parties, was strengthening its monitoring capabilities to ensure that they were well regulated. Journalism is one of the most respected professions globally, yet it remains one of the most challenging and risky. In Nigeria, where insecurity, misinformation, and public tension continue to rise, the safety of journalists, especially those working in the field, has become more critical than ever. To this end, safety experts are now urging journalists to prioritize personal safety while carrying out their duties. The report.
For journalists, particularly those who report from the field, experts say taking personal responsibility for safety should always come before any assignments. They also advise that journalists must study and understand the environment they are heading to while staying alert and cautious of their surroundings. According to them, while safety can never be fully guaranteed, awareness and proper preparations can significantly increase the chances of staying safe on the job. Across Nigeria, journalists face numerous risks in the line of duty. For instance, Victoria Tokolo, a freelance reporter with Trust TV, was attacked in July 2025 in the Agege area of Lagos State with her essential work tools seized. But safety goes beyond physical protection, as safety experts emphasize the need for media organizations to provide comprehensive insurance policies for all employees, especially those reporting from volatile areas.
The Nigerian society now is a bit volatile, just for everybody, not only the journalists. But by virtue of the kind of job the journalist does, it becomes sort of a target, and oftentimes you get casualties. Recently, a journalist jumped from the story building and then broke her legs and died in the court. So those are kind of sad stories we hear every day.
You need to talk about the safety of you first, before the safety of what you are doing. And then before you go to the field, you must know exactly where you are going to. Beyond knowing where you are going to, you need to tell your family members where you are going to. That is the safety that you need to initiate for yourself first, before any other thing.
Again, it is very important that media houses consider insurance for the journalists, because they faces high risk, and insurance is like a cover. And when the journalists are going out there, they know that there is a cover for them, and so because to become part of what the media houses should provide for the journalists.
Another part of making sure that journalists are able to work safely is making sure that there are important insurance policies, whether that's group life insurance, whether that's life insurance, whether that's health insurance, very, very important. And these are policies, those are insurance policies that organizations can get because they are getting it in bulk for their staff. They're able to get it, discounted, than what a private individual would get if they went to a company by themselves.
They emphasize that since no story is worth a life, every journalist must understand that beyond storytelling, their safety comes first. And for media organizations, while informing the public remains a duty, protecting those who tell the story should always be a top priority.
And now in business, former Vice President Yemi Osinbajo has urged African governments to stop celebrating gross domestic product (GDP) growth figures that fail to reflect real improvement in citizens' welfare. Speaking at the 65th anniversary of the Ford Foundation in West Africa held in Abuja, Osinbajo said that despite Africa's record GDP growth in recent years, the continent continues to struggle with poor welfare indicators, weak healthcare systems, low educational outcomes, and high unemployment. He noted that his time in office revealed a deep disconnect between impressive macroeconomic statistics and the lived realities of ordinary Nigerians. Osinbajo called for a paradigm shift from trickle-down policies to inclusive, bottom-up development strategies focused on women, youth, informal workers, and rural communities. He cited examples such as Bangladesh's girls' education reforms, Rwanda's gender inclusion policies, and Lagos State's 1999 judicial reforms as proof that social justice and inclusion drive sustainable growth. The former vice president also warned that corruption remains one of the worst forms of social injustice, depriving citizens of essential services and undermining public trust. Now away from Nigeria, U.S. President Donald Trump has announced he will not attend the upcoming G20 summit in Johannesburg, saying South Africa no longer deserves a place in the group of major economies. Speaking at the American Business Forum in Miami on Wednesday, Trump said South Africa shouldn't even be in the G's anymore because what happens there is bad. He added that he will not represent the United States at the meeting set for November 22nd and 23rd. Meanwhile, Vice President J.D. Vance will attend instead. Trump has been a vocal critic of South Africa's land reforms policies, accusing the government of targeting white farmers and committing what he called massive human rights violations. Earlier this year, he signed an executive order to cut U.S. aid to South Africa and to support the resettlement of white Afrikaners in the United States, describing them as victims of unjust racial discrimination. Pretoria has rejected the allegations, calling Trump's statement factually incorrect and based on distorted view of country's policies. And now,
for generations, Miami has been a haven for those fleeing communist tyranny in South Africa. I mean, if you take a look at what's going on in parts of South Africa, look at South Africa, what's going on. Look at South America, what's going on. You know, I'm not going to, we have a G20 meeting in South Africa. South Africa shouldn't even be in the Gs anymore because what's happened there is bad. I'm not going. I told them I'm not going. I'm not going to represent our country there. It shouldn't be there.
And now in sports, FIFA's decision to appoint a South African officiating team for Nigeria's 2026 World Cup playoff against Gabon has sparked outrage among Nigerian fans who are questioning the neutrality of the move. In a later dated November 3rd, 2025, FIFA named Tom Abongile as center referee with compatriots Zakeli Suela and Akona Makalima assisting and handling VAR duties. The referee assessors will come from Benin Republic. The first leg of the playoff is scheduled for November 13th at the Mole El Hassan Stadium in Rabat, Morocco. A senior official of the Nigeria Football Federation, NFF, told journalists that the federation was baffled by FIFA's choice, citing tense football relations between Nigeria and South Africa. The official recalled that a South African minister had recently declared he did not want Nigeria to qualify for the World Cup, feeling concerns about bias. Fans have taken to social media to demand FIFA review the appointment, insisting that officials from a neutral country should handle such crucial encounter. The Super Eagles advanced to the playoff round after a dramatic win over Benin Republic in October, courtesy of Frank Onyeka's late strike. The winner of the Nigeria-Gabon tie will face either DR Congo or Morocco in the final qualification rounds. And with that, we have come to the end of News Update on Trust TV. Do not forget to watch and catch us across all our social media platforms for more news, programs, and documentaries. I am Fatima Ahmed Musa. Thanks for watching.